Bush and Chains, who's already clearly really just hating me, just sad. I hope we can tweet some reggae at each other later, buddy. But this is not going to win me any favors with him now either. And I've been thinking more about Bitcoin. And there was a really good piece that Anna Rose Strasser wrote in Think Progress about part of just the fundamental tension in Bitcoin, and part of the reason that it is not working and not likely to work is for the very simple reason that most users of Bitcoin are, and this is not just us, this is empirical data, are young white males, and they are libertarian in outlook. They tend to be pretty financially privileged. They tend to have a degree of tech savvy, which you need to engage with Bitcoin. And that is, and we've talked about this a lot, that's the culture driving Bitcoin. And I'll be really clear. I think in some ways, the idea of a peer-to-peer digital currency, I think there are going to be things like that. And I think that could, if structured correctly, potentially really actually play a positive role in some things. But as we say, it's a very high barrier to entry. And the way the currency is designed, it's not just that there isn't government intervention, which I don't believe in. I do think you need some form of government intervention, obviously. But it's a libertarian outlook. So even if you were to say a community could govern itself, if you took a different approach, you might have more strong governing mechanisms within the peer-to-peer community. And this is a big debate in terms of how people approach these types of things generally. They approach it in a libertarian way. They approach it in a more anarchist way. What are the structures that they're putting around these things? And I think clearly the Bitcoin structure comes from a very, very privileged world with a very, very fanatical commitment to libertarianism, which to me is obviously, it's going to bring us backwards. And what's great about this piece is she talks about, most people that are underserved and indeed abused by the financial sector are people of color, women, immigrant communities, basically the exact opposite sector that Bitcoin is working towards. So these are the people that cannot get basic financial services. The statistic that people have been talking about are spending, unbanked households is what the phrase is, spend on an average of over $2,400 or about 10% of their income to use services like payday lending and check cashing. So all of these small-scale predatory services, which David Dane and Senator Elizabeth Warren obviously talked about in advocating for the post office to provide basic banking services, which is a great idea. But there's also different forms of alternative currencies and alternative models of getting people what they need that come and arise organically from these communities. As an example, there's something that's known as the Rotating Savings and Credit Association, and this is very popular in immigrant communities. It's SOAS. It originated in West Africa and was brought to the United States by Caribbean and African immigrants. And they function essentially as community banks. People put in different savings. The savings rotate, and it's operated informally. Now, there's a lot more details in the piece, which I won't get into because we have a limited amount of time. But when we talk about the fundamental need for different ways of people accessing financial services and engaging with currency, we need to think from the places where it's needed most, and from the places where, from the outset, we're going to think in terms of a context of access and social justice, and actually a much more interdependent and indeed regulated outlook. Now, on the other hand, obviously, the other big picture is that part of the reason people are discriminated against are racial discrimination, discrimination around finances, which shows up in things like credit check scores, employment discrimination. And we need government to address that. It's the opposite of a libertarian fantasy. You need the Department of Justice and the Civil Rights Division making sure that does not happen. So Bitcoin isn't working not because, and first of all, everything in a certain sense is virtual currency as well. So you can have it backed by different things, but a credit card and all these, that is symbolic currency. But we need to look at the assumptions we're building into a currency. That's how we're going to address what we want to address through thinking differently about the economy.